folks, when I think of the city of Pickering, I am reminded of a line from the song Home on the Range. And that line is, where seldom is heard a discouraging word. Which is to say, Mayor Kevin Ashe and his minions on council have zero tolerance for discouraging words, or for that matter, contrarian viewpoints. And even though a democracy is supposed to embrace discussion and debate, well, that is not the case in Pickering. Case in point, my guest is Lisa Robinson. She is the lone dissenting voice on Pickering Council. But get this, Lisa's defiance has resulted in an enormous penalty for her, which is to say, she has been stripped of her entire annual salary. But why? How can this be? How is this even constitutional? Lisa, I think it's horrible what's happened to you. I don't think I'm telling tales out of school when I say you're a single mother. You depend on your salary as a councillor. This is a vendetta, I think, for you being contrarian to Mayor Ashe and his minions. Can you give us the Reader's Digest of what rationale the council is using to, well, make you penniless?
They don't like the truth, David. That's what it comes down to. It comes down to the truth. And I keep on speaking the truth to power on a lot of different issues, and also trying to bring forward draft motions that, the people want me to bring forward, and they don't like them. So they keep on censoring me. They keep on saying that I'm bullying and intimidating. When I start asking questions and when I see that staff are lying, they sit there and they say that I'm bullying and intimidating them. And then all of a sudden, I have another sanction against me. I just had sanctions a couple of Mondays ago on June 23rd. And do you want to hear what they were for? I lost 90 days pay, 3 months pay to make it a full year for these sanctions. One of them had to do with, I talked about surveys at a town hall meeting.
Okay.
And I mentioned how surveys can be skewed.
100%.
Absolutely, we all know that. I mean, it's a global phenomenon that everybody knows. You can skew a survey just by asking certain questions and not asking other questions to get to an intended
Oh, Lisa, I know exactly what you're speaking of. There's a fantastic book, came out in 1990, by Cynthia Crossan, who was a Wall Street Journal reporter and editor, and it was called Tainted Truth. And basically, she determined that by shifting a scientific study 1/1000th of a degree, you can dramatically alter the outcome, and it's full of tangible examples. So I know exactly what you're talking about. How is this hateful or bullying to city council?
Because they don't like the truth. Another thing that it had to do with the sign-in sheet. So at my town hall, this all had to do about the November 28th town hall that I had. But another thing had to do with the sign-in sheet. So I had a sign-in sheet there for the people coming in, and they said that I broke MFIPA rules. So in the sign-in sheet at the top, I had a disclosure saying that I could use this for something other than my Ward 1 work throughout the city of Pickering. But the thing is that I did not collect anything other than a first name or initials on this. So there was no email address, there was no address, there was no phone number.
So what rule was broken?
Right, exactly. They just said because I had placeholders in place for those three things. So I got sanctioned on that.
So Lisa,
for something I didn't even do.
What's really behind this? To me, the examples you've given, they're cockamamie reasons to discipline you and economically penalize you. Is this all about, as I said earlier, is it some sort of vendetta? You're the one lone voice going up against the mob, and they don't like it, and apparently they have zero tolerance for it.
Yeah, they have absolutely zero tolerance for anything that I have to say. I mean, the mayor has openly said that he's biased against me, and he's even said on camera that, he doesn't want to hear anything that I have to say.
And didn't he even make a remark once where he alluded to you being a dog?
Yeah, he said he was going to keep me on a short leash.
Yeah, so isn't that maybe a form of verbal bullying?
Absolutely. I mean, he does a lot of verbal bullying. If you look at, all of his Facebook posts or any of his comments, he's not very nice to the people of Pickering, If somebody challenges him, he says, oh, go have another drink. Like just off the cuff comments like that, he calls people conspiracy theories. Anyone who is affiliated with me, he says, well, then you must be a racist.
A racist?
Yes, he's actually called people the racists.
Have
Conspiracy
you done
theories.
or said anything that has been racist?
No, I haven't. They might interpret things to be racist, but then when I ask them what was racist about what I said, nobody can come up with the answer.
I find this deeply disturbing. I would argue, why get into politics if you're so thin-skinned that you get some slight blowback on an opinion or a policy that you will go out of your way to economically penalize that person. And I guess, Lisa, in your case, it's in increments, isn't it? It's like a 3-month salary suspension. Mm-hmm. So when you have 4 3-month salary suspensions, that's an entire year of salary gone. I know you wanted to serve the public when you got into office, but I know you rightfully expected to be paid and didn't expect this was going to be a volunteer position.
Yeah, no, I definitely did not think this was going to be a volunteer position at all. And, I'm going to keep on doing what I'm doing. I'm not going to stop doing what I'm doing just because they are taking away my pay. But it just shows to their character, right? Because all I'm doing is I'm speaking the truth. Another thing that I got sanctioned for, if I might, is that, I talked about the gifts and benefits. Us at the City of Pickering, we're not allowed to accept any kind of gifts and benefits unless, of course, we declare them.
Right.
Well, I said that there is a way to get around that. There is a loophole in our system. So when we're doing gifts and benefits, we only have to declare gifts and benefits if they're going to us, to a parent, to a spouse, or to our child. So I had said a way around this is that, like, let's say a developer gave me 10 tickets to a baseball game. Mm-hmm. And I decide to take my spouse and my child. Well, that's only 3 tickets. So that means there's still 7 tickets unused that I have in my hand. So I can just start giving them out to people. I could give them out to people for bribes. I could give them out for favors. I could do whatever it is that I like. And that is true. And I don't have to declare those 7 tickets because they're not going to my spouse, my parent, a child, right?
Right.
And so, of course, I made mention of that. And that's part of the reasons why I lost 3 months' salary was because I was telling about the loopholes.
Well, this is baffling, but in the big picture, Lisa, we are less than a year and a half away from municipal elections in Ontario. And you've told me in the past you intend to run for mayor. Tell me, is that still the plan? And I don't know the lay of the land of Pickering, but do you have a legitimate chance of unseating Kevin Ash?
Yes, absolutely. What I do, I definitely want to run for mayor. I have made that public. And in fact, I lost 3 months' salary for this one quote.
No.
And this quote was, if I was to become mayor, I would use the strong mayor's powers for good. I would go into City Hall. I would get rid of the CAO, the city solicitor, and a bunch of the directors because corruption does start at the top. I would tear down City Hall and build it back up from the bottom and give it back to the people.
And why is that a 3-month salary suspension?
Because, under the code of conduct policy, oh my goodness, I'm speaking disparagingly of somebody. But I said, if I was to become, and what? I will run my election on that. Yeah. That very thing alone, I will run the election on. Because corruption does start at the top. And there's a lot of corruption happening at the City of Pickering. And you know what? We have to give it back to the people. The taxes are out of control. The draconian measures that, they can't even come and speak in a council meeting on a topic that's not on the agenda.
And what are the people saying in Pickering?
Well, a lot of the people are against it. But the thing is that every time they go to speak out, you have the mayor sitting there and, making smart-ass comments to them on social media and, degrading them and telling them that they're conspiracy theories and doing everything that they can to ruin the reputation of somebody. Even the mayor's wife sat there and wrote a letter to this person's employer because she didn't like the Facebook post and tried to get him fired.
What, she wanted to get somebody fired for a negative Facebook post?
For a negative Facebook post against the mayor and what this person had said. And then, then she wrote a letter to the integrity commissioner. I'm sure that one's going to come down the pipeline too, because I spoke about it. Because she said, oh no, I wasn't trying to get him fired. Well, if you weren't trying to get him fired, then why did you say that you were the mayor's wife? Because they have different last names, right?
And Lisa, as I've said before, I think a municipality, it should be all about, picking up the garbage, plowing the snow in the winter, paving over potholes, making sure the drinking water is clean and safe. This idea of getting into our lives and micromanaging it, and in your case, taking away an entire year's worth of salary for having contrary opinions. Well, let's just say there'll be a lot of municipal elections in Ontario next year. We're going to look at very closely. Pickering will be one. What is going to be your election slogan when it comes to vote Lisa Robinson for mayor?
I don't have the slogan just yet,
Okay.
but it will be along the lines of, like I said, I am going to tear down City Hall and build it back up and give it back to the people, because that's what needs to be done. It's supposed to be for the people, right?
Yeah.
And it's not anymore. We have staff running the show. Even us as councillors, like, honestly, it's really just a big facade. It's staff that runs the show. It's not your councillors. And you're going to see that with our new council chambers, where they are redoing the chambers, and guess who's at the focal point of the chambers? It looks like a courtroom setting, what we're getting. And you have the mayor in the middle, and to his right and to his left, you have two non-elected officials. So you have the CAO and the city clerk, while us as councillors, the rest of us, we're going to be sitting sideways. So that means I'll be looking at other members of council while the congregation is where you are. So if you're sitting there talking as a delegate or anything else, I'm not going to be looking directly at you. I'm going to have to sit there and turn completely around if I want to have facial contact with you.
Absolutely incredible. I have to get a cameraman, go out there, cover the next council meeting. Oh, wait a minute, I forgot. We need 2/3 council approval, or else we're frog marched out by the police. Lisa, good luck with your mayoralty campaign. And folks, in case you're wondering, in case you're saying, why do I care about little Pickering, Ontario? It's this. This template for shutting down debate and discourse might be becoming to your municipality. These ideas are kind of like a virus. And thanks to Lisa Robinson, thanks to the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms, there is some blowback. We got to nip this in the bud. Hey folks, I know you love it when Rebel News tells the other side of the story, that side of the story you are not going to get from the legacy media. But unlike the legacy media, Rebel News does not receive a single nickel of taxpayer funding, and that's where you come in. Can you help me out here? Can you go to rebelfieldreports.com? That's rebelfieldreports.com, and if you're able to, kindly make a donation.